Well, and welcome back to Cow's Creations. Now, before I begin too far, I would like to let you know the fact that I am a little under the weather. So if I go off tangent every now and again, I am very sorry, my bad. But I really wanted to do this video because I'm very excited about it. So you can see in front of you a 3D print. Now, this 3D print took about 4 days to print, some very large pieces, and it's not completely finished, but I'll get into that very shortly. It also comes with some accessories. You can 3D print like a throne. There's also an altar you can put on top here, monoliths and such. I just haven't got around to them. Once again, I'll explain shortly. So I've got the Lich Priest for the Tomb Kings up there. So he's for scale. And you can put him down here. You can tell that, he is pretty much the perfect size for this. Now, this will be used as a piece of terrain for the vampire counts maybe, or tomb kings, or even chaos. Realistically speaking, it has that nice feel. It can go anywhere on a battlefield, and I can also use it for something like Mordenheim as well, and I can also use it for something like D&D if I really wanted to. Anyway, we'll see. So let's go a bit of a wander around the back. So we have Slambo here on the back part there. Now, these are all separate pieces, and except for this large area, it's all separate pieces, but I'll get into that shortly. So Slambo here was, if I remember rightly, the first thing I ever resin printed on a little tiny resin printer, just to see how he did, and he turned out beautifully, and I think that's what got me into resin printing. So it fits there quite nicely, and on the other side, we've got like a little out bit and so forth. It looks very nice, adds to the motif. And on the back, we've got another bit that hasn't been printed yet. I'll explain shortly. Pops in there and it makes another tower going up. So, I've got, where are we? Another one of these that I've got to add, and it'll sit there, and this gives a nice little sort of chaotic feel for vampire counts, tomb kings, chaos, whatever you really want to do it for. And I might print out some. Actually, no, I've got some gargoyles, some metal ones. I might pop them on a few areas and so forth as well. We'll see how we do. And I also have this, which is an old piece of terrain I've had for ages. I can even just pop that down on there, like that. And then, I don't know, put the throne there on top of it. That might work. I don't know, Anyway, so we'll see. There's lots of variations you can do with this, which is what I loved about it. Now, with all 3D printing, there are perils. And this is something that has been grinding my gears for a while. So I have owned a 3D printing shop before. I've been 3D printing for about 10 years now-ish. And in that time, there's all sorts of pitfalls you find. And the one thing I dislike is people going, oh, you just cheat. You press a button and it prints it out. And essentially, yes, but a big no. So when I bought the files from my mini factory, it had like 30 files. And you're only going to use maybe about 25 of them. But you don't know which files to print and what are the other bits for. You can look at them, but you don't understand. So I initially printed out this bit. This is the first piece I printed. These are 2 parts, so that part there and that part there. And I went, oh yeah, fine, no worries. And printed out everything else. And then I went to put it together and it doesn't fit in between these 2 pieces. Why do I have this if it doesn't fit? It's too big. I don't know what possessed them to do it. I really don't know. But you don't really know that until later on. Okay, fine, no worries then. Also, I'm finding at the moment that my printer has been playing up. I've had like 5 jams in 7 days. Now, I've addressed the problem. I found out through trial and error what the problem is. And the part arrived this morning, so I can now pop it in there and hopefully be able to run the rest of it for the back part at the back here and get that tower up, and also print out other pieces of fun terrain. Now, there is another problem with 3D printing. All right, so let me break it down for you. You have to make sure that your printer is well maintained. You've got filament for it. The parts you have a reasonably good idea, that they'll go together. Now, if I'm doing bases, that's just a base singular model, much like the throne. It's a singular model. It prints, ta-da, you're done. This has got gaps along the side here, more gaps across here. There's a couple of gaps on top and so forth. So you're going to use a bit of green stuff to, glue it all together and make sure it's, reinforced and nice and sturdy. So just don't think it all clips together like, some wondrous magical item and away you go. Then, of course, after that, you've got to paint it and then give it a bit of a varnish if you want to and detail it and such. And then it's perfect for the battlefield. Don't get me wrong. 3D printing is a beautiful thing. But as I'm very well aware, it is an addiction as well. I print faster, much faster than I'm painting. And it's a problem. And also, as I found out recently, beautiful big pieces like this of terrain are gorgeous on the battlefield. This would be beautiful with a road coming out of it with like spines and skulls and so forth, and have it leading down to like a lake of, rotting corpses and such. Beautiful, stunning, but where do you store it? I mean, I'm in a reasonably small house, so real estate for something like this, I'm going to have to find a place for it, pop it in, even once it's all painted and so forth, I'm going to have to find a slot for it. Now, thankfully, through some genius work on my behalf, I've been able to find a place for it. But I mean, I've also printed out the Mighty Empires, the original castle that you got from all those years ago. I have one of those. I also have a huge, massive chaos castle with horns coming out. This should be on these videos. If you go back far enough, you'll see it. It should be there. It should be in my shop, I think, when I owned my shop. So my 3D printing shop was mostly PLA and resin, but I no longer have the shop anymore. But that's for another story. So if you're thinking of 3D printing, I would say, first of all, research what's in your price range. Look at the files. My Mini Factory, which is on the computer, obviously. There's also a thing called yegi.com, which you can look at as well, and a few other sites that have some really good files. Half of them you have to pay for, half of them are free, depends on where you go, really. And you'll find lots of files out there. So research what printer you want, what size you got. Most models these days come within a smaller printer size to a medium to a large. Also, you'll need to figure out what sort of filament you want. Now, I normally go for just plain old grey. And the reason why I like grey is you can see all the shadows. You can see all the bits and pieces. If this was all black, you'd be looking at a black blob with a miniature on top. You wouldn't have any fine manipulation of the areas of darkness and so forth. It would just all be black and nothing else. After filament, a place to put it, and away you go. That said, I mean, I stick mine in my garage. It's perfectly fine there. It gets a little warm, but it's not too much of a problem. And the end results are beautiful. Now, I will do a painting tutorial of this, and I'll be doing something different. I'll be speeding it all up, so you'll just see me painting it all this and painting it all that, and away we go. I will paint it up mostly in the traditional colors as well, so it'll be like a black with a brown and a bit of white on there, that usual stone look. And then I might give it a coat in like a red or something, like it's been soaked in the blood of the living or something. I don't know. I've got some ideas. I've also maybe doing it like a ghastly sort of blue and green. We'll see what happens. But at the moment, once I get the printer repaired, I will be printing out the rest of this bit here, popping it on there, and away we go. So, tell me what you think. Do you like it? It's huge. I can't even put it all in screen. It's massive. It is really huge, and I absolutely love it. But then again, I always like, big, impressive things on my Warhammer fantasy board. And, growing up, back in the early 80s, 90s, and early 2000s when I did Warhammer Fantasy, I was always doing stuff made out of cardboard and so forth. And it was great. It was lightweight. Wasn't particularly solid, but, it worked, and it worked well. Now I get to play with bigger toys. Anyway, I am going to get off. Remember, I do have a competition going where you can win prizes. And as always, love the game, love life, chaos out. Please like and subscribe, and any questions, just ask. Bye.